Welcome to CBJ and 30, presented by Pedialyte. I'm Bob McElligott, and I've got a good show for you today. We're going to talk about some Blue Jackets prospects. Well, heck, some of them are now in the National Hockey League, but the Cleveland Monsters have three players that were named to the American Hockey League All-Star Game. I'm going to talk with Tony Brown, the voice of the Cleveland Monsters, about that in just a few moments. And I'll also talk with Hall of Fame writer Scott Burnside about the Blue Jackets, where they sit in the NHL, and where they may be when the NHL season comes to an end. It's all coming up on CBJ and 30, presented by Pedialyte, right after this.
Looking for a fun night out for the whole family? Follow the crowd to a Blue Jackets game with a Columbus Dispatch Family Value Pack. You'll score a ticket to a Jackets game, plus an Ohio Health Chiller skate pass, meal and drink, all starting at just $30 per person. Get your Columbus Dispatch Family Value Pack, presented by ABC6 and Fox 28 at bluejackets.com/family. Get your tickets now.
Welcome back to CBJ and 30, presented by Pedialyte. I'm Bob McElligott, and the Cleveland Monsters have three players going to the American Hockey League All-Star Game. Okay, maybe two players going to the American Hockey League All-Star Game. Tony Brown, who's the voice of the Cleveland Monsters, joins me right now. And Tony, the three players are Luca Del Belbelouze, Trey Fix-Wolansky, and Denton Mateychuk. And I'm going to start with the last guy, because Denton Mateychuk, after having a great start to the season in Cleveland with 9 goals and 16 assists over the course of 29 games, has been in Columbus now for the last couple of weeks. And he's playing here much like I would assume he was playing there. Very smooth, very calculated, very good in his game.
Yeah, he was outstanding. I mean, really one of the most impressive 20-year-old players I think any of us have seen at this level in a long time, logging huge minutes at the American League level in every possible situation, and just dominant statistically, top 5 in the league amongst rookies and defensemen, really from the start of the season until his recall to the Blue Jackets, up there in goals, power play goals, assists, power play assists, everything, just highly productive, a huge part of the team here in Cleveland. And of course, we're thrilled for what he's doing at the next level. That's what it's all about in this league, but the Monsters certainly enjoyed him when he was here, and he is every bit an all-star, just one of the top defensemen in the league as a 20-year-old.
One of the things that stinks the most about the American Hockey League is when you lose players, you always lose your best players. And another one of your all-stars, that's the case this week. It's called up to the Blue Jackets for the first time this year, and that is Luca Del Belbelouze. Now, if you want to talk about a guy that deserves an all-star nod, this is the guy. He leads the American Hockey League in points, and he's got 17 goals, 20 assists, 37 points in 34 games. This guy seems to be a completely transformed player from last year, Tony. And I know last year there was a plan for him, and that plan was not going to play every day. We're going to give you time that you can work, that you can get stronger, and it really looks like it's paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the clear message to him coming out of last season was you need to put on some weight and sort of, get ready for your second year where he can really impose his game. The thing about Luca is just his hockey IQ is so apparent. He's such a smart player and he loves hockey. I mean, this is what it's all about for him, is trying to get to the NHL. And that's, something that makes all of us here in Cleveland so happy for him to have this chance with the Blue Jackets. He's earned it. He's come out of the gates on fire this year. He's eclipsed his season totals in all the offensive categories. It seems like a couple of, weeks, a couple of months into the season, and he's already past where he was last year in a lot of ways. So Luca, a guy that is super well liked, a young player with a super bright future, and this is a big chance for him. It's not lost on him. He's very excited, I'm sure, to go up and make an impression up there. I know there's a lot of great centers in Columbus right now, but for him, he's pushing, and he can't really do much more than he's done this season at the American League level. So again, like you said, Bob, it stings for us in Cleveland to lose a guy like that, our number one center for sure. But everybody's so happy for him. He has really done everything his staff has asked him to do this year and excelling beyond all expectations.
Well, he's got a lot of expectations because last year he was here. He scored a goal on his very first shot in the National Hockey League. Ironically, it was after taking a penalty and coming out of the box and joining the rush on the play. But, for Luca, when you talk about him eclipsing all of those numbers, Tony, has it been a surprise to anybody in Cleveland? I mean, as you talk to Trent Vogelhuber and his staff, is it a surprise what he's been able to do?
I don't know that it's a surprise. I mean, it's been super encouraging. I think they were, expecting him to take a big step this season because they were so blunt with him last year about the things he needed to do. And this summer, I mean, by all accounts, he took it to heart. He took that feedback to heart. He needs to get in the weight room. He needs to become a more physical player. He needs to focus not just on the offense and the points. That's great. But if he's going to break in at the next level, he's got to play that responsible 200-foot game. So I don't know that it's surprising to the coaches because his attitude has always been so outstanding. But it's been certainly gratifying, I would imagine, for those guys, and just fun for us to see him take this step because while last year was a really promising rookie season for him, he has really taken a big stride this year.
The other American Hockey League All-Star is a guy that has really become a fixture in Cleveland, pardon the pun. Trey Fix-Wolansky is going to the All-Star game. 29 games for him, 32 points, 14 goals, 18 assists. He's fifth in the league in scoring. He has proven himself to be a really dependable player and one of those guys that can go back and forth between the American League and the National League, hasn't he?
We love Trey in Cleveland. We call him the franchise because he has literally every single franchise record on the offensive side: goals, assists, points, power play goals, game-winning goals. He does things offensively that no one has done in the near 20-year history of the Cleveland Monsters franchise. And he's just been so completely reliable and consistent, not just this season, but throughout his now parts of 6 seasons with the club. So Trey is a huge hit with the fans. Of course, that's long been the case, but he's an electrifying guy in the American League level and another guy that everyone roots for when he gets a chance. I know he hasn't been up with the Blue Jackets this season, but he's been up plenty in recent years. And again, another guy that's just, it would be hard to imagine him doing more than he's done at the American League level here. And yeah, this season, a well-deserved All-Star honor. It's his second consecutive All-Star appearance. So this is a big thing for him, and he has earned it, and he has been, like we said, super consistent throughout the season. Just no lulls. He brings that same fire every single night.
Let me ask you about Rocco Grimaldi, a veteran guy, came in on a tryout, played for a while under that scenario, signed a contract recently. I mean, Rocco's got 32 points in 30 games. He's 7th in the league in scoring. So the points obviously have been important, but what about the leadership for some of the young guys on this team? Because this Monsters team this year, Tony, is a little bit younger than the ones you've had in the past.
Yeah, and not just younger, but they lost their entire leadership group from last season to this season. So Rocco's been an important presence. That was a very exciting day when it became clear that he was coming to Cleveland because he's been one of the top American League scorers now for really, several seasons. And of course, all of his experience in the NHL. He's very familiar with Trent Vogelhuber. They played together down in San Antonio once upon a time. So it was an easy fit for him and great to see him earn that American League contract. Super productive. If there is a snub in terms of the All-Star game on the roster, it's, with all due respect to Jet Greaves, it might be Rocco because he's right up there with Fix-Wolansky in terms of his production. And yeah, I think just having all that experience in the room, it helps any team at this level with young players who are in different stages of their development. Well, he has seen it all throughout his career, again, at the highest level, but also in the American League for a long time. He's played for a lot of different organizations, and he has unbelievable perspective. So it's been a hugely important addition for our general manager, Chris Clark, to have brought him in. And he's made a true impact, not just with his production on the ice, but as you said, Bob, just with his presence around the room. If you're a young guy and you want to talk about life in the pros, whether it be on the bus or on the plane up top in the NHL, Rocco has a lot to add to that conversation. So I'm sure all of the young players, particularly the forwards, have benefited from his being around.
Last guy I want to ask you about is Owen Sillinger, because it's very easy to go, well, he's Cole Sillinger's brother and he's in the organization, and that's nice. But I'll tell you what's nice. Owen Sillinger, 25 points in 34 games for the Monsters. Obviously, by the numbers, he's a big part of what you guys are doing, right?
And he has been for a long time, too. He's got 110 points in 192 career games over the course of 4 seasons in Cleveland. So we have long appreciated his presence here. He does it all for the Monsters. He's a competitor, plays in all situations. He can take faceoffs and play down the middle. He can play on the wing. You ask him, where do you prefer to be? He says, wherever my coach needs me. So he's that kind of a player. He was a leader, wore the C in college. He wore the C in juniors. He's a part of the leadership group in Cleveland. He's a really important player to the Monsters, and again, it's that consistency night after night, the example he sets for the guys who might be in their first year at this level. It's about how you approach the game, and it's about how you compete, and he does those things every single night the same way. So the Monsters, have just benefited so much from having him a part of the organization the last 3 years, and so happy to see him get that NHL deal this year. Guys like him and Cole Clayton, who were on American League deals, now on NHL deals with the Blue Jackets. It's a big point of pride for everyone with the Monsters to see them have that success and earn it by using the American League to their advantage.
It's been such a successful year so far for you guys. You sit in second place in the North Division, just 1 point behind Rochester, and sitting just ahead of Laval. That is Montreal's American League affiliate, and that's a team that's coming in for a big battle, back-to-back games this weekend.
Absolutely. And of course, Pascal Vincent, the head coach of the Laval Rocket. We're excited to see Laval. It's a team that's changed a lot from last year to this year, and this is the first of 4 meetings in the season series. So the North Division, Bob, this season is really a gauntlet. I mean, there are no easy nights, and 5 teams make the playoffs in the new divisional playoff format from the last few seasons in the American League. So there's going to be a really, really good team in this division that gets left out. So it's great for everyone. It raises that level. The importance of each of these points is apparent on a night-to-night basis. And the games have just been so fun, so competitive. Rochester's kind of had our number this season, but the Monsters have dominated Toronto, another one of those really good teams. And Laval, like we said, haven't seen them, but looking forward to it. And also just a big, couple of home games for Cleveland. We've had amazing attendance this year, leading the league yet again. Had a 16,000, night game a couple of weeks back. So the fans are on a new level this season. Everyone's excited about the team. And yeah, this will be a stern test against another team jockeying for position. It seems like you lose a game, you go from first place to fourth place. You win a game, you go from fourth to first in the division this year. So lots of great nights, lots of competition, and looking forward to seeing Laval.
Well, Tony, thank you very much for getting us updated on what's going on in Cleveland, especially with a couple of guys that are now here in Columbus and the All Stars that are going to play or maybe not going to play in the American Hockey League All-Star game. Great to talk to you, buddy.
Hey, my pleasure. Anytime, Bob. Thanks.
That's Tony Brown of the Cleveland Monsters. Coming up next, I'm going to talk with Hall of Fame writer Scott Burnside as we continue with CBJ in 30, presented by Pedialyte.
Here are 5 great reasons to get a Blue Jacket season ticket plan this season. 1. Choose the games you just gotta see. 2. Plan start at just 6 games. 3. Incredible savings. 4. A ticket trade program for games you can't make. And 5. Invitations to exclusive events all year long. Come on, need more reasons? Visit BlueJackets.com/tickets today.
Welcome back to CBJ in 30, presented by Pedialyte. I'm Bob McElligott. Right now, I'm joined by Scott Burnside from Burnside on Hockey. But it's much more than that, far more than that. This guy is a legitimate Hall of Famer. Back in November, he was given the Elmer Ferguson Memorial Award, inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Scotty, I don't know if I've had a Hall of Famer on my show before, but I certainly have one now. Thanks for being here. And I wanted to tell you, congratulations. It is well-deserved for all of the years that you have written here, whether it's the National Post, the Athletic, 13 years as a senior writer for ESPN. It all pays off.
Bob, it's always a pleasure to chat with you, but especially when you're going to pump me up like that. So you can call any time now, day or night. I'm always happy to answer your call now. But thank you for the kind words. It's still a little bit, well, it will always be humbling to think about. So I appreciate your kind words.
I think you covered your first playoff series in 1997. You were writing for the paper in Windsor. I mean, when you walk in at that time, you're never thinking to yourself, hey, you know what? Maybe 25, 30 years from now, I'll be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
I could barely get in the press box at Joe Louis Arena in 97, let alone think about something like that. And, I was a news guy for a long time. And when I made the transition to sports, it's again, you talk about, being humbled by realizing how much you don't know about, a certain part of the craft or how to do your work, or even the basic elements of, well, how do I get to the press box? Where do I go after the morning skate? And, and I'm sure you know this, Bob, but, I've always found that the game has been so, welcoming, and it's filled with people who are selfless and people who are willing to help. And, whether it's other reporters or broadcasters, coaches, players, I feel so fortunate to have been doing it for so long, and part of it, well, a big part of it is the people you've met and the relationships you forged that way. But it does, it's a long time ago that I was like, geez, what happens now? Like, how do I get to the locker room? Like, what happens after that? So.
Well, now you just walk around with a big head and you can go wherever you want to because you're a Hall of Famer.
Yes, I haven't tried that too many times yet. We'll see how that works out down the road.
Let me know how that works out. Not that I'm expecting to make the Hall of Fame, but I'm just interested to see how much clout it has in the building.
Yeah.
Scott, I know you've been a big Blue Jackets guy for a long time. You've seen us at different stops along the way, and I know you not just follow the entire league, but I know you follow the Blue Jackets pretty closely. At the halfway point, they're in a wild card spot, and I think that shocks a lot of people outside of Columbus. I'll be honest with you. When you sit and watch this team every day, it doesn't shock me as much. But tell me, as a guy from the outside, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think Bob, I think it's fair to say that they're one of the, there are always surprises at the midpoint of an NHL season. Sometimes the surprises are unpleasant, and with all due respect to the folks with the New York Rangers and the Nashville Predators, things have not gone the way that I think certainly they expected in those markets, and their fans expected, and a lot of observers expected they would go. And then there's always the flip side of the coin, and I always love these kinds of stories where, a team really, sort of emerges or finds an identity or competes at a level that surprises, those outside the bubble. And I'm sure for people inside the Blue Jackets locker room and inside the rink and the administration offices, I mean, there has to be some satisfaction, and even though they may not be surprised themselves, to wake up at the midpoint and find themselves in a wild card spot because they believed in what they were doing and they believed in the approach. And so they are one of the big surprises. I am curious to see how the second half goes, because it's one thing to go from being, and whether overachieving is the correct way to describe it or not, maybe this team hasn't overachieved. Maybe this is who they are. I think in some ways they have overachieved. Certainly offensively, they're much more dynamic than I thought they were going to be. I think they're fifth in goals scored per game. As you and I are chatting, top 10 power play unit. So that's a bit of a surprise to me. It's going to be interesting to see how long Sean Monahan is out. Hopefully it's not very long, because to me, what a great addition, and for so many reasons in that room. But the real test is going to come, because now you're not just a surprise. You're not sneaking up on teams. Now people are like, wait a minute, let's not coast, or let's not look beyond this next Blue Jackets game. So you're going to get better efforts, I think, from opposing teams moving forward. And then, of course, now because you're right in the middle of a playoff hunt, the ultimate cliche, those points become so hard to come by. You've got the extra, it always seems in the second half of the season that you've got a million shootouts and a million overtime games, those 3-point games. And for a young team, sometimes you'll see a team step back, because you have to learn how to play those kinds of games. You and I chatted yesterday just when we were talking about getting together here, and I'm a huge Dean Evison fan. I spent some time around the Wild when Dean was coaching there, both in the playoffs and training camp, and I just thought he would be such a good fit for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I think it's really turned out to be that way. So to me, if you have a coach who can coach against that backsliding, who can coach a team to continue to, to play at its best, to stay in the hunt, I think it's Dean Evison, and I think it's going to be a fascinating second half for the Blue Jackets. I mean, how do you feel? It must be kind of cool to wake up in the morning and look at the paper and say, "Oop, all right, nobody holds paper anymore. I'm sorry." Once upon a time, I did, but you look at the websites, and there you are. You're in the second wild card spot. You're two points behind the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's pretty amazing.
One day we were on the plane, and Jeff Rimmer, our television broadcaster who's retired, he came on and he had a newspaper. And Jody Shelley said to him, "Where'd you get that?" And I said, "A museum."
Nice.
Right? But anyway, to answer your question, yeah, it's great. I mean, let's be honest about this, Scott. I mean, the last 2 years here, the Blue Jackets have been dead last in the league. They've been dead last in the Eastern Conference last year. It has been a tough go here in the last couple of years. So the fact that you have your players 41 games in talking about the playoffs, and you can see that they have belief in themselves that they're buying into what's going on here. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Well, and I think, again, I've spent a lot of time around Don Waddell in over the years. Of course, I'm based in Atlanta for the most part, and Don was there for the Atlanta Thrashers tenure there. And I spent a lot of time around the Carolina Hurricanes, once Don took over as GM in 2018 there, and the work that he did, to me, in some ways, Carolina's they're a model franchise. They've made the playoffs every year since Don 2018 when Don took over at that season. They haven't missed the playoffs. They've won a round every year. I thought Don did an excellent job drafting, developing, massaging a unit under head coach Rod Brindamore. They're a real good team. They're still a real good team now that Don's gone and Eric Tulsky's took over. But Don Waddell really, I think, put in a structure in place that we'll see that team have success for many years moving forward. And I think it's a nice fit in Columbus. I already think some of the moves you're seeing, I mentioned Sean Monahan, but there's been some moves. It'll be interesting to see then, because Don's not afraid. He is not a man to be afraid come trade deadline time, to make a move. And as you point out, Bob, for a team that has had some really difficult times, and a team that has been a perennial seller, if they've been able to sell off assets, they have been, have done so the last few years. I wonder what Don Waddell's plan is. Like, he's not going to sacrifice youth in the future for a rental or anything like that. But I wonder, he has the wherewithal to bring in a piece that helps not just now, but maybe in the future. And I wonder, the team will dictate what Don Waddell does at the trade deadline. And again, that's an exciting time. If you talk to players in a locker room, that's an exciting time come trade deadline when you're talking about maybe bringing in pieces that can help push you over the top and get you to the playoffs. That's a reward in and of itself. And I'm sure those conversations will be had if this team can stay close.
Are you coming to the Stadium Series game at Ohio Stadium on March the 1st?
I will not be there. I'm sad that I won't be there. It's been a while since I've been to an outdoor game. I feel fortunate. I'm going to be covering the Four Nations face-off in Montreal and Boston, so I'm looking forward to that. But I have not been to an outdoor game in a while, and I'm glad that Columbus has a shot. I will be glued to the TV though. Trust me on that. What do you think? I mean, that's going to be so much fun for you to broadcast at those events. Is a much different animal, I think, than your traditional game day routine.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. I did one in the American Hockey League. I have never done one in the National Hockey League. It'll be different. I think it's going to be great for everybody here. These people have been clamoring for a game in that stadium for a long, long time. It'll be against Detroit. It all works out. And yes, I'm very much looking forward to it. But I'm sad you're not going to be here. I was really hoping to hang with you. It's been a couple of years since we really got to hang out.
It has been a while. And you know what I like? I like his, with all due respect to the Winter Classic, which, maybe lacks some pizzazz, with all due respect to Chicago and St. Louis. The fact is, you've got two teams. Detroit's just made a coaching change, and Todd McClellan coming in and having some immediate success there. But a team that could very much play into the wild card fight in the Eastern Conference. And so, to me, I always love an outdoor game that has some juice to it most it matters. One of my favorite outdoor games was at Dodger Stadium, and I watched the Kings and the Anaheim Ducks. One of the most competitive outdoor games I've ever seen. Two teams that hated each other, and two teams that were locked in a real battle in the Pacific Division. And the game, those 2 points were really important. And I think you're going to see the same kind of thing with the Stadium Series game, because again, if the Blue Jackets can hang tough, that Detroit's a team you need to stay ahead of. And I think I think we'll just add a little bit of, the atmosphere will be enough. It's going to fuel so much passion and energy for the game. But the fact that these are critical 2 points, it's going to add a little bit of spice to it.
All right. Well, check the schedule. If the Blue Jackets stay in the race, come and see us somewhere on the road, will you?
All right, I'll do my best. Yeah, and you will be the first person I call.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. You are a true Hall of Famer, Scott Burnside. I appreciate it. And if you want to get Scott Burnside. Burnside on Hockey. Just go to it, search for it. You'll get stuff delivered right to your email box. And I appreciate that. I get it from you, and it's wonderful. It's great information. So thanks, Scott, and thanks for joining me today.
Anytime, Bob.
That is Scott Burnside from Burnside on Hockey. Stay tuned. I've got more of CBJ and 30 presented by Pedialyte coming up next.
Looking for a fun night out for the whole family? Follow the crowd to a Blue Jackets game with a Columbus Dispatch Family Value Pass. You'll score a ticket to a Jackets game, plus an Ohio Health Chiller skate pass, meal and drink, all starting at just $30 per person. Get your Columbus Dispatch Family Value Pack presented by ABC6 and Fox 28 at BlueJackets.com/family and bring your family to this can't-miss matchup.
Welcome back to CBJ and 30, presented by Pedialyte. Getting ready to wrap up this week's show by telling you the Blue Jackets have some big games coming up. First of all, they're going to be in St. Louis tomorrow night. That'll be a 7 o'clock Eastern start, and that game is going to be live on ABC6. So watch that game on TV on ABC6 and also the FanDuel Network, and you can catch it on the radio network as well on 97.1 The Fan. Then the Blue Jackets come back home, and they've got two big home games next week. First of all, the Philadelphia Flyers come into Nationwide Arena. The Flyers have already beaten the Blue Jackets 2 times this year. The Flyers are chasing the Blue Jackets in the standings right now. They're not that far back. So these points are crucial for the Blue Jackets to pick up. That game is going to be on Tuesday night. And then on Thursday night, the San Jose Sharks come to town. Now, San Jose is in a full rebuild. They got the top pick overall last summer in Macklin Celebrini. Celebrini is really settling into the NHL nicely. They've got young talent. They are a fast team. They're an exciting team. And they beat the Blue Jackets in San Jose couple of months ago in overtime. So the Blue Jackets are going to try to even the season series with San Jose next Thursday. So that's what's coming up on the schedule in St. Louis on Saturday. Again, FanDuel Sports Network and ABC6. You can watch that game, and the Blue Jackets are back at home. Philadelphia on Tuesday, San Jose on Thursday. I'd like to thank Tony Brown and Scott Burnside for joining me on today's show. Thank you as well, and that'll do it for CBJ and 30, presented by Pedialyte. I'm Bob McElligott.